My name is Sonny Macon. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of ABC Florida East Coast.
And I'm Peter Dyga, the President and CEO of Associated Builders and Contractors Florida East Coast Chapter.
The Obvious Podcast is a production of ABC Florida East Coast. Unless otherwise stated, all content reflects the opinions of the guests and the hosts, which is us.
And if you like The Obvious Podcast, you can subscribe on all major podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and Spotify, among others, or watch the audio-visual version on YouTube. You can also follow The Obvious Podcast on Instagram, X, and Truth Social. You can always reach out to us via email at theobvious@abceastflorida.com. Links to all the show notes and social media feeds of this episode are in the show notes. And if you want to help others find the podcast, and we hope you do, please leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice.
Welcome to The Obvious, Peter.
It's good to be back. Thank you all for tuning in.
A lot going on. Some would say things have been coming at a blazing speed, right?
Unbelievable.
So
How fast. There's probably a good advice to slow your roll if you're going to criticize something, or because
it could be solved by lunch.
Solved by sundown. All exactly.
Right. So today I wanted to talk about, big picture stuff like we usually do, but I also wanted to talk about what we think this new administration means for our industry, for construction.
Great topic for our members, for ABC.
Absolutely. So
mostly one thing is getting all the attention, sucking all the oxygen out of the air, and that's the labor issue, right, as it relates to immigration and deportations and whatnot. So, yeah, that seems to be getting most of the attention, understandably so. Although I think what we've seen so far, most clear-thinking people would have little to object to the kind of people we're deporting at this point. So that it's true that potentially, depending on how far this goes and whether this administration and Congress, doesn't. Well, first of all, I think we'll continue, which we always have with the process for legal immigration and visas that exist and expansion of them, hopefully, and normalizing, certain people. I think there's a lot to be hopeful for in that regard. So, but a whole lot more, right? I think in terms of potential work. That work being open to everyone, hopefully. There are some concerns, I think, in the industry, given his announcements on his labor pick, and some people.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, the Secretary of Labor, who's seen as being pro-union,
correct,
and less free merit-based. Yeah. But remains to be seen, right?
Correct.
She really hasn't done anything in terms of her policies or any rules coming out of there that.
Right.
But certainly, as ABC, we're keeping an eye on it and making sure nothing.
So I think
gets by.
What we want to do today is, draw a little more attention to the things that aren't being consuming the oxygen in the room or whatnot. Right. I mean, all the conversation seems to be about the potential concern, from a labor perspective, but. Even before this president was sworn in, he was announcing deals for a tremendous amount of infrastructure.
Can we go back to labor for a second?
Yeah.
Do you remember this? This made the rounds, I don't know, a few days ago on socials, and it's a construction worker. It looks like a construction worker who's being arrested, and he's cuffed, and he's being led off by two law enforcement people, and on his shirt it says "Latinos for Trump," and quite a few liberal.
I've missed that. So
quite a few liberal friends of mine posted it.
Uh-huh.
And I got really curious, and of course, if it's a Latino for Trump, then he's an idiot and he's a fool and he's getting called all sorts of names by my dear friends on the left. And then I end up getting curious if this is even real because, can't take.
You never know these days.
You can't trust photos.
Mm-hmm.
And I got curious, so I went to the right-wing fact checker known as Snopes. Of course, I say that sarcastically because that's a very liberal website.
As all the fact checkers were, as it turns out.
Yeah,
a lot of them, supported by.
And it turns out that picture was obviously a fake, right?
Unbelievable.
It wasn't even an ICE raid. It was from 2013, and they weren't ICE agents. The shirt was just a gray shirt, and he was a wanted criminal who had a warrant out for his arrest and was being arrested by local police. And they, of course, changed the back of the local police to ICE. They added that Latinos for Trump on
and
shirt.
Snopes
And
admitted this.
Yeah, and Snopes had the original picture and the original article talking about,
Wow.
where it came from. And of course, I'm
The
on
moral
my
to that story is be careful.
be careful of trusting images because there's a lot of doctored stuff flying.
Yeah, you've seen the meme lately as well with all the gang. It's a group picture of I don't know, 10 of them or so with the face tattoos and completely tatted up. These are like mean hombres.
We're here to pick your vegetables.
We're here to pick your vegetables. That's what the left would have us think.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah. Anyway, be careful out there. So, but in any event, even before he was sworn in, I think he was announcing deals.
Yep.
Groundbreaking in terms of the level of investment from outside the country, a lot into the infrastructure that's going to be necessary for AI
Yeah.
and the internet services. And anyway, who's going to build that? Our industry.
members.
Our members, hopefully, a lot of them. So, there's an awful lot, I think, to be positive about for the next 4 years in terms of the amount of work.
Yeah.
The fact that hopefully less federal work is going to have PLAs attached. That's going to be a blessing.
And just the macro environment where people feel good about making investments, right? And it's so interesting. There was a press conference, and then so many things have happened since the press conference. Nobody's even talking about it. But it was with Mayoshi Son, who's one of I think he's the wealthiest person in Japan. He runs a company called SoftBank, and they're early stage investors in a ton of stuff. I think they were involved in Uber and Facebook, and same thing. You invest in 100 companies, and one becomes your unicorn, and then you do really well. So he's got huge funds, especially for tech. And it was Sam Altman was there, and the guy Larry Ellison, and they're talking about a $500 billion investment just in data centers, specifically data centers for AI. And the president's up there talking about how he's going to fast track approvals. He's going to now, in a normal news cycle, that would have been in the news for like a week.
Absolutely.
Right? People would have talked about it and what that meant.
But we are not in a normal news cycle.
Not in a normal news cycle. 100 things have happened since that press conference. And you think about all of the opportunity for growth and for ABC members that occur from just the tech spending that's going to be happening.
Absolutely.
And how much that's going to change. I'm sure his attention is going to turn to housing. I know he's already talking to the Fed about, hey, look at your interest rates. You're not really helping the housing market in any way. I know new construction is up because the builders are able to buy down interest rates for their buyers. And
I want to point out, because we've talked about this in a past episode, I think the impact of 10 to 20 illegal immigrants on the housing market itself.
That's a wonderful point.
Yeah. So that's going to, I think, have a positive impact in the sense of take excess pressure, I think, off
the housing stock.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Which is as limited as it is anyway.
Exactly.
Right.
And not to mention, we've done past episodes as well about the Federal Register and the number of regulations. And so to have to look forward an administration whose objective is simplifying or reducing regulations certainly should be beneficial. These are a lot of intangibles that are going to be hard to put a number on. We think all in all, the reason why there's really good reason to be optimistic, about not only the level of work, quantity of work, the environment that you're going to have to do it in.
Yep.
So now, again, the only thing that gets the attention in the room, from the press and from everybody is, some of the negative factors that people are worrying about. So labor, trade wars, maybe we need to touch, on that a little bit. Although, again, this is my point of, if you're going to be a critic, you might want to just wait 24 or 48 hours because, many of these things people have come out and criticized. And again, before the sunset, the issue is resolved, favorably towards the United States and the administration's policies. So,
it's interesting. I've read a lot of pieces where people are clutching their pearls about the tariffs, right? Like, oh, we get all our lumber from Canada and you're going to destroy this. And Trump was president in 2016, 2017. You realize that he uses the threat of tariffs to negotiate, right? We saw that recently when he was talking about putting a 25% tariff on Canada and on Mexico, and then both governments responded and changed their policy on the border. And he's like, tariffs on hold, right? So this idea that somehow his threats or his proclamations are going to translate into something negative for the industry. To your point, just wait and see.
Exactly.
Just wait and see, because
And I don't know, open up your assessment to a broader spectrum and picture of what he's trying to achieve and accomplish.
Yeah.
Just even on a micro scale, I think within a day or two of the Canadian tariffs, it probably happened with the peso as well, but the value of their currencies were down in a day or two. I don't know, 2 or 3%.
Yeah.
So, and that's in a day or two. So who knows how much stronger the dollar might have went against their currency. So what's my point? My point is even the 25% tariff was not going to, even if it was just a strict, going to cost you 25% on every single one of those items. The fact that their Canadian dollar is weaker to the American dollar as a result, and is going more and more in that direction. That 25% tariff already is, within a day or two was really would have only had a 22 or a 23% impact. And if you expand that strengthening of the U.S. dollar over time, it might have been a net zero.
Right.
You never know. While he's achieving all sorts of other objectives, so this man, it's been said, right, and I believe it. He's playing chess while a lot of other people are playing checkers or tiddlywinks or whatever it is they're playing.
But you look at his. I mean, he's so not like a regular politician, right? Where he will just say things just to test the market or to see how it what sort of reaction he gets. And I think it's interesting in terms of so many people write about the economic doom and gloom from just something he has said, and completely ignore the prosperity from what he has done.
Exactly.
And I think that's a shame, right? Like I think the people, and again, this. I have no.
Certainly, we won't. People like us and his administration, but it would be nice if, we as Americans could just acknowledge, hey, it's kind of cool that his policy has now got U.S. warships going through the Panama Canal for free.
Yeah.
Whereas we were spending, it's kind of cool that we've got.
I don't know if you remember our Federal Register episode from some time ago. There was about a 50% reduction in the amount of rules that came about that Obama's administration was putting out, and that Trump's administration put out in 2016. 50% reduction in regulation.
You don't think that impacts the business environment and investment and
exactly
jobs and
like our industry fought hard against the Biden PLA, right? We did an episode on this too, where we talked about the project labor agreements and their negative impact on competition and how literally taxing they were to the taxpayer, right?
Yes.
And just driving up the cost of everything. And one of the first things this administration did was get rid of the PLA issue.
That's right.
And so,
despite their Secretary of Labor nominee.
Yeah, despite that.
Right? So there's good reasons to have hope.
Exactly.
Despite wanting to talk about all the negativity. So
And I hear a lot from his cabinet members that they are there to do they're there to execute on his vision for the country, right?
Yep.
And they aren't there to kind of place their own agenda.
So I want to talk about another, potential, what I call the sandals in Gaza. I mean,
by sandals you mean the resort?
The resort,
right?
Yeah, a little double play on words.
Yeah,
but I had somebody email me the day, or within a few days of that being announced and being talked about in the news, that he was involved in a construction association many, many years ago when, and I'm trying to think of what the project was at the time. I think it was maybe the opening up of Saudi Arabia or Qatar, or I don't know, something. And how they had said they were interested in building what we've seen over the last several decades, right?
Yeah.
And that association made the announcement at their board meeting, and how everybody was like, how do I make connections? How do I do it? Because there were a lot of people that would be interested in doing that work and would be beneficial to those American companies, probably companies all over the world. So, again, the potential for something like that, I think is huge.
Yeah. For
a lot of members that do work like that around the world.
Right. So, and I read somewhere that we
don't know if it's going to come, happen or come to fruition, but this is the vision, right?
The vision. One of the things he talks about all the time is bringing manufacturing back to the U.S., especially high-level manufacturing, right? not the simple, not the widget making, but something the more sophisticated kind.
A lot of it, by the way, is already happening.
Yeah,
Because of the threats of the tariffs.
the
People are like, I don't want to have that on and off over my head. They're like, I'm moving our facilities back to the U.S. That's happening. Like,
and that was a lesson we learned from COVID, right? A lot of people, especially in critical industries, were like, I can't have manufacturing dependent on the other side of the planet, and have it shut down when I need it the most. I mean, I think about generic medicines,
yes,
right?
and all this impacts our industry, right?
All of this,
The people, our members, the people who build the commercial structures in the world and industrial and institutional structures.
Well, that's been, so my point about manufacturing plants was that's been one of the most consistent non-residential construction sects that has grown consistently. Has been manufacturing, and I think under Trump, I only expect it to grow more. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for that. And I mean everything from sort of the last minute delivery of warehouses like Amazon and things like that, to high tech manufacturing, to mid tech manufacturing. I think you're going to see a lot of that coming in, and then the onshoring that's occurring under him, because he's incentivizing onshoring every way he can. I remember his first administration, right? There was all this cash, all these companies had sitting in Europe and in other countries, and they wouldn't bring it back because it was going to be taxed too high, and he cut that tax. And I remember there were some billions of dollars that Apple had sitting somewhere in Ireland, and he said, "Bring it back, and I won't tax you on it." I remember this from this first administration. So, I think just the broad perspective of his policies or his administration's policies is only going to be good for our industry.
How about energy production?
Yeah,
talk about
even talk about
inputs. And one of the things that'll have the biggest impact across the board in everything.
Yeah.
Again, it's not always like turning on the spigot and overnight the water's flowing from the dam to Southern California. Yeah. Although sometimes you have those kind of results. This is going to take a while, but man, our economy and people incentivized under a free market or meritocracy can respond so quickly to not only incentives that exist today, but even that are being talked about that they know are coming.
Yeah.
Right? That respond to those things.
Right, absolutely. There's I read this article about, or actually I saw a news piece about in the Mojave Desert in California. It's a 5 square mile solar plant that costs $2.2 billion to make, and is about to shut down next year because the cost of energy production there, and whatever the sort of the measuring unit, it was like $180 some a unit, compared to $34 for natural gas for the same amount of energy, right? And they're shutting it down because it makes no money.
Unbelievable.
And they wasted $2.2 billion. And I don't know if it was a public-private partnership.
This is when California. This is when your government gets to picking winners and losers,
exactly,
rather than an economy that's driven by
market,
right? By market
forces.
Mm-hmm. An analysis, of inputs and outputs, and anyway, so incredible.
He did the whole thing in his last administration with it was Tim Scott's idea on the economic zones. Right, where he was just like 10-year hold, no tax, all sorts of things, and that had a tremendous impact. People react to incentives, but you just got to give them a stable framework to do it, and they'll do it.
Exactly. So anyway, I think the prospects, all in all, yes, there are some things on the horizon, and that gets all the attention. But this is a balance or a scale. And overall, I just think the economic environment for our members in the next 4 years is going to be, it's going to be very exciting. So note to membership. Right. We expect membership to grow. We expect enrollment to grow. We expect political engagement to grow. Yep. This industry is going to be growing and more prosperous than ever.
And ABC East Coast is ready to grow.
Absolutely.
We're geared towards it. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this time.
Thank you for all you do as our members, build our communities and give back to them, and for your engagement in ABC. So the future's bright. And let's not just harp on the negativity. That the media will want to constantly, be playing up, I think. So,
I heard Geraldo say one time, and if you don't know who Geraldo is, you should just Google it. I heard him say one time, "You will never see a reporter standing in front of a hotel that's not on fire."
so true.
That has always stuck with me.
Anyway, thank you all for listening and honoring us with your time. We look forward to sharing another episode with you very soon.
And if you have any comments, suggestions, ideas, you can always reach us on an email, which is the obvious at abceastflorida.com.
You shoot us an email, who knows? We might read it on, right?
We might read it on our show.
All right, till next time.
Take care.
Ciao.